Recording in progress. Yep. And you're on, man. And I'll just let me know when you want me to share the screen, and I can advance the slides for you too.
Okay.
Tech guy.
Hello, Zoomers. Hello. My name is Amanda Rogers. Many of you have received emails from me. I am assisting with this field trip to PEAK, it's Pacific Environmental Education Center. So we can go ahead and start the PowerPoint if that's all right.
Got it.
This PowerPoint, after tonight, any questions that you have, we'll add them to the PowerPoint, and then we're actually going to send a link out so you have access to the entire PowerPoint, so you can review all the information within it. A lot of the PowerPoint mirrors the PDF that I sent out recently regarding like frequently asked questions, but there is some additional information in this slideshow. So we're going to Fort Bragg in October, which is very exciting. The current 8th graders, many of them went to Alliance Redwoods back in springtime in March. And coming back after COVID, there hadn't been field trips, and so the 8th graders last year decided that they wanted to do a field trip, and they invited the 7th graders to attend. So we did that, and then we said, we want to do another one. And so the idea is for any of you that have 7th graders, next year, you would go back to Alliance Redwood. So you'd have your opportunity in 8th grade to go. So potentially for 7th and 8th grade classes, from here on out, 2 field trips would flip-flop. Move on to the next one forward, please. So as I mentioned, I'm Amanda Rogers, and I did help on the last science trip, kind of last minute, to be honest with you. It was organized by the 8th grade parents, and 2 out of the 3 couldn't. One, her son broke his leg, they didn't go. The other one switched schools. So there was 1 person left. And so they asked me to help. And so I had the opportunity to do that. Carla Tilley was here tonight. She was one of our alternate chaperones, and because the 8th grade organizer, her son broke the leg, she couldn't attend, so Carla stepped up and attended as well. So Carla Tilley and I both have currently 8th grade students, and then our other partner in crime is Jennifer Garcia. Her son's Grady in 8th grade, but she's taking her oldest son to college. So she's not with us here tonight. So this trip is exclusively planned by parents. The school is supporting us, and as is PTO, but we're doing everything, all the planning. Stacy Newton-Boom, who's actually on the Zoom call tonight. She's not here, of course, but she's the treasurer for PTO. So she'll be processing all the payments. We're going to go into that part at length later on in the presentation, but all the payments will be made to PTO. All the payments will be brought to the office. They will be accepted by the office staff here, so the parents aren't going to be handling the money. And then our teacher, Mrs. Amy Otto. If you haven't had the pleasure of meeting Amy before, she's one of our 100% independent study teachers. She was kind enough to come with us on our trip last spring, so she's familiar with our little group. I've known Amy myself for forever. Oh my gosh, forever. She's fantastic. I'm so thrilled she's there. And I do want to say thank you, Mr. Wood, for spending his time after hours here with us tonight to be my geek squad, but also boundless support from him. So anytime we have a question, he's answering emails for us, doing everything he can. And the school, of course, is our liaison with PCOE. And they have a lot of the forms that are required in there, so they're helping us with that sort of paperwork. Okay, who's going? So at this time, we have 38 students who are attending. You can see that we have 23 8th graders and 15 7th graders. 13 boys for the 8th graders, 10 girls, 8 girls, 7 boys for 7th grade. The good thing about that is the way that it works out is the cabins that we're staying in are 12-person cabins. So because of these numbers, we're actually able to keep each cabin by gender and grade level. So last trip we had a little bit of concern because we got 8th grade boys and we're going to do mixed with 7th grade boys, and it wasn't a really great dynamic. This time we're keeping them with their grade level. However, you'll note that there's 13 boys for 8th grade. They will be in two cabins, but we'll break them up by 7 and 6. The chaperones that you see up here, we did it by a ratio for the 8th grade attending and the 7th grade attending. That's kind of how it worked out. Plus, of course, needing the same gender parents for the cabin assignments. We wanted to make sure that we had at least 1 chaperone for every 5 kids, which is a little bit more than even what the camp requires. So we will have 2 chaperones per cabin. And as you can see, the cabin breakdown, we can have 7 in one cabin all the way up to 10 students. Any of you that are chaperoning right now in this room, will you stand up for me, please? And just say your names for me real quick. So go ahead.
Ryan Vanderwerk.
Okay. And
my son is Ryan Vanderwerk as well.
And he's in what grade?
8th grade.
Perfect.
And you'll hear me call him RJ.
RJ,
Yeah, it's
Okay,
Peter
good.
RJ, that's why.
because that's been confusing me too. If I gotta yell at him, I don't know if I'm yelling at you or
Yeah, I
not.
don't think you're yelling at me.
Thank you so much for volunteering.
Andrea Hoffman.
Andrea.
I actually go by Michelle, so that's fine.
Okay, okay.
And my daughter's Allison, she's in the seventh grade.
Okay, so I will change your name on here to Michelle.
Yes.
Okay.
But
got it.
any legal
You wanna know
process.
it? Okay.
It's like,
You could be
Ryan,
Beyonce.
RJU or your son's son? If your son's RJ, you're right.
Yes.
Right,
Okay.
and then we've got Michelle Hop. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Aaron Leck, and my son is Ethan Leck in seventh grade.
Fantastic, thank you.
And Mike Green, my son's Jacob Green.
Perfect, thank you guys for being here. I know that we do have quite a few chaperones in on Zoom as well. I think that we've got Cheryl Wynn's on there. I think that Bressler's on there, Clima, so a lot of them are listening, which is fantastic. Okay, and then we have our alternate list over here. And this is an order of the way that the applications came in. Most of these people are already live scanned, a couple are not, but if we get to the point that any of you chaperones are unable to attend, then we may have to go over to the alternate list, which did happen last year with Carla. We'll communicate that information if it arises.
And it still works. It's great.
It still works. It was great.
It was 2 steps 5.
Go ahead.
And that was Marissa.
Okay, so as I said already, the abbreviated pronunciation is PEAK, that's what people call it. We're going to Fort Bragg, and if you look at the map, we're actually just slightly north of Fort Bragg, not very far out of town at all. And then we're within McCarricker State Park. Have any of you been there?
Yeah.
Marvelous. So the thing is that our site is within the campground, so you can see that there are other campgrounds up in here. Since it's October, there probably will be people that will also be camping there in addition to our students. So it's not as though we're completely isolated and by ourselves there. However, our campground isn't along any other of the other main loops. And we don't share bathroom facilities with any other members of the public that are camping. This organization has been doing these trips for years, so they've got it pretty well dialed. We will be going down into the closer to Fort Bragg for some of the daytime excursions. We are not able to do every activity at the campsite itself. Obviously, we want to get to the ocean, which is across the way, as well as there's like this staircase hike that we take the kids on. So some of the locations we will actually be driving to them within the Fort Bragg area, keeping with the carpool assignments that we have on the way there. Thank you.
Doing my best.
You're doing great. So just to kind of get some pictures, I want to thank Julia very much for going up there this summer. So there are 2 types of sleeping arrangements. One is a cabin that has, oh, did I do that? I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay. Ooh,
What am I doing?
that's great. I can do it. Obsolete. You're obsolete.
I know.
So there's 2 cabins there that have wooden sides. It's like an actual structure that's permanent. Then they have these raised wooden platforms. My husband went on this trip in 2018 with our son, and he said that they essentially, because this is off season that the pictures were taken, but they they put up poles in the canvas sides and a roof. And he said it's not drafty at all. It's actually, it keeps it pretty warm in there. And then they put in the bunk beds. So there's 6 of those bunk beds to sleep 12. No electricity whatsoever, like none. So part of our packing list is encouraging everyone, if children want to bring like battery operated nightlight type things, that would actually be ideal, and we could place them throughout the cabins and have little walkways so that if in the evening they need to use the restroom or something, they can see where they're going. I don't usually read PowerPoints, so you can read this as I'm talking, and they're usually not this thorough, but you know, it helps. So at bedtime, they go into their cabins, and that's where they're supposed to stay. And then they have to be escorted to the restroom. And I know some of these kids are, you know, some are almost 14 years old, but that's the rule. So the chaperones will make arrangements. My husband said they just made all the guys go to the bathroom before bedtime. They did okay at night, but the restrooms, there are 4 total bathroom stalls, and then they have 3 separate showers. It'll say in your packing list that you need to send quarters for showers. But our representative from the camp said that they think they can get tokens from the state park they will get to us. So I'm going to tell you to kind of stand by on that for another couple weeks till I verify it. That's what we'd ideally like, is just for each chaperone to hand the children the token. Once we arrive, they'll designate bathroom use times, and they'll go off of that. And with our size group, it's supposed to go pretty good. I mean, this camp is actually used to hosting, much larger schools than ours, so it should be okay. I did want to let you know, Ms. Sato, however, that there is near your trailer, you
I'm
have
gonna be trailered.
across that
I'm excited.
across the path from your trailer site, you can go into the bathrooms of the other campgrounds if you need to.
Oh,
Okay, so it's
It's
private
yeah.
setup.
yeah.
Now, there might be other
Yeah,
members of the public you'll have to see, but that's okay. I want to make it fancy for you. All right, so please,
I'll just touch the screen there,
you think it's okay?
find out.
Like switch,
Oh, try again.
the other way. Across. Yeah.
No, just kidding. That was a test.
Okay, so daily activities I've already touched upon, and we're gonna talk about departure timelines a little later in the presentation. But on that Monday, the 2nd of October, we're gonna leave here probably we meet about 6:45 in the morning. Last year it was slightly drizzling and it wasn't too pandemonium. It was actually fairly organized, but we're gonna have to, make sure your kids are getting in the right car, and you can say your goodbyes and take pictures and all those things. So 6:45 a.m. is the time frame that we're shooting for. Things come up, sometimes people are late, we understand that, but we hope to leave around 7:15 at the absolute latest. And then the drive is going to be over 4 hours, 4.5 hours. But we're gonna have to stop for lunch as well.
And then in the morning, we coordinated snacks also.
Yeah,
To
no,
give
yeah, I'm
each
gonna,
driver.
and I'll get to that later as well, exactly. And I hope to do, so for chaperones, I actually wanna have maybe another meeting after this one in a few weeks, and we can do it via Zoom, we don't have to do it in person, but we need to talk about the logistics of how we're gonna travel in pods for safety. Go over the map, the route that we're gonna go on, where we're gonna stop to go to the bathroom, and then, making sure with kids and snacks and all those things. Once we arrive, which they requested we arrive after lunch, so perhaps around 1 p.m., we do an orientation, they do a hike, dinner, campfire, and a slideshow. Next day, big day, that's the one where we go and we hike the staircase. And then beach cookout, and then we're doing up here, I don't know if any of you have ever been to the community pool in Fort Bragg. It's pretty rad. It's at their park, and it's indoors, and it's like a little baby sun splash. And so it's climate controlled, and there's water slides and like a little lazy river. And so we're gonna do that one of the days. I mean, I don't think it's gonna be obscenely hot in the beginning of October, but I don't think it's gonna be terribly cold either. But because we're inside that building, it's just after this big long hike, gives an opportunity to go to the pool, we swim. It's actually kind of unique. It's very fun. And then one of our last full days there, sand dunes, tide pools. That's the night we let them shower, apparently. We go on a night hike though after that, which seems weird. And then the next day we have our closing hike, and we will depart about 10:30, 10:45, they said, but they'll send us with lunches. And so once again, we'll go and we'll figure out a place along our route to enjoy our lunch that last day. There we go. Hi, Michael. You ready?
Okay.
All right. We will be, I'm going to read this verbatim. We'll be walking, hiking, and getting wet in the tide pools and at the community pool. There are no alternate activities if your child is unable or unwilling to participate. This is a big deal because last year, one of the organizers, it was her dream to have this trip. She had a Mr. Wood, she made this whole thing happen, and then her son does motorbike racing, he broke his leg. He says, I'm not going, I don't wanna go, I don't wanna be on crutches, I don't wanna go. And frankly, it feels good to go. He would have been miserable. It was too much hiking, too much movement. So heaven forbid something happen and your child can't do the trip. Don't just send them for the experience because it's not going to be enjoyable. Very intermittently, we had a child that would say, I have a headache, I don't feel well. If something like that happens, then because of the amount of chaperones we do have, we're able to have a chaperone go aside with that child, make sure they're okay, assess the situation, confer with Mrs. Otto, and then decide, how serious is this? I had one student who, one night at the campfire, because the smoke is in your headache, understandable. She kept complaining, it got progressively worse, and I said, well, if this continues, and we try X, Y, and Z, then your mom has to pick you up. She's like, no, I'm fine. Oh, okay, yeah, let's go. So between Mrs. Otto, the chaperones, we're gonna resolve those situations. Worst case, if somebody is far too ill, then unfortunately, families have to come get them. We can't bring them back for them. So that would be a 4.5 hour drive to come retrieve your children. Chaperone, if your child gets sick, somebody from your family needs to come. Because we lose you as a driver, and we're relying on that to get all the students back safely. If something happens to a chaperone, then I call my husband, and we just, hope it works out. I don't know.
The fire truck.
Yeah. So, since technology can't be used at camp, because there's no electricity to charge their stuff, we encourage them to bring handheld entertainment. So in the evening or in free time, which we didn't really have our last trip, they can bring cards, dice, that sort of stuff. Something small though, no like large box board games or anything, of course. Oh, and you don't have to go back, but you may notice the behavior contract piece. That is something that is in your packet. It's in your students' information. It's towards the very back. That is actually a behavior contract for peak. However, all children will be held to the same standards that iLearn if they were at school. That's the expectation for behavior. We didn't have any problem with the kids last time, really. My main problem was with the chaperone who was supervising
That's
your
it
children.
wasn't a kid.
It was the adult that I had issues with. It was allowing them to walk to the parking lot, the road and stuff, like, no bueno. That was an issue that we had. But the kids, for the most part, they were fine. Okay, food. We touched on it already, but when we depart, we're going to request that maybe some snack donations be made. When we get these forms back, there is a section where people can note any food allergies. So if we are advised of a particular food allergy, then we will do our best to make sure for that student in that vehicle that we respect that. A sign up, probably Link Genius, something like that will go out, and if you guys could donate, that would be greatly appreciated. Last time we also asked for donations like baby wipes, Clorox wipes. I think we had a still in the car, I don't remember. I don't think anybody got sick, but this is gonna be a longer drive, a little bit windier road.
Yeah, I think they made it out.
Yes, yeah, I think they made it. We did have a child get sick that didn't make it out, that's right. Shelly's daughter did. We got to the beach, there it was. You actually donated some bags though.
Yeah,
For
so
that
we do
piece, the nausea
like
piece.
dark colored garbage bags, so if they're sick, they're sick in a Ziploc that is then sealed and put in a dark bag so no one has to see it. Except
And if you
works
do it in your
really
car, I will have them suspended when I come back.
Yes, exactly. Send that email right off.
That's the whole comment.
Right.
But beyond that food that we're requesting for the car rides, we do request you don't send extra treats in their backpack, okay? I know you love them, you want to send them with a little treat, please don't do that. It attracts raccoons, and I've already explained that the canvas size on the tents make it not secure. Raccoons are bad. We don't want them, do we? No. So please don't do that. Now, if any of your children have special diets, again, on the health form, you're gonna need to include that information. The dining hall does have limited refrigeration because it does have electricity, in ways that we can store certain food that they need for their diet. That would of course have to be stored outside the cabin in that dining hall. That health form again is referenced here and it is in your packet. That's another peak form. And the line on there isn't very big if you have a lot to say about their diet. So if you need to write more, please be sure to go on the back of that form. On the day we depart, they will need a fully disposable sack lunch. Do not send Tupperware. It will get thrown away. Carla was kind enough to bring it back last time. I wouldn't have done it. So when I say fully disposable, I know it's not environmentally friendly, but please, everything's gonna be thrown away. So don't even send like a plastic water bottle. You're gonna send them with their metal refillable water bottles. I know you gotta put the sandwich in the plastic bag, but just do it for that day. It's gonna be okay. And then once at camp, they receive breakfast, lunch, dinner. When my husband went a few years back, he said it was actually just food, and that when they start the meal time, everybody gets a certain portion, and then after everyone is served, people can come out for seconds. Which on that hike day and the pool day, they're pretty hungry. So that's nice that they actually have that extra food available. And then if your child does have the dietary needs, all the forms are due by the 11th. And we'll be reviewing them. So if you need to make arrangements about food, though, saying, hey, I want to make sure that I'm seeing this with my child, and maybe we need to have you communicate with your driver, you need to let Carla, myself, or Jen know, and our emails are everywhere, by the 20th. September, which is a week before we go. Okay, next slide, sir. Packing. This is a big one. So everything they bring must be labeled. Everything they bring must be labeled. And I mean, I'm not saying like write their name on their toothbrush, but you could. I don't think it's a bad thing. Certain articles of clothing, you're gonna get, well, for the 8th grade girls, there's 10 girls in the cabin. You know how clothes are gonna be everywhere. It's just gonna happen. And some of the girls are gonna have the same clothes. So you may even wanna go down and put little initials in a label on the inside of shirts. Like, I know I'm getting specific, but don't trust them. If you want it to come back, label it. If you don't care, then don't label it. But please, use masking tape on anything, like if it's a dark garbage bag, you're gonna write on it, put the masking tape on there really well. Loose items, sleeping bags, pillows, duffel bags need to be in one large bag. And actually, our parents were dynamite about this last year. So if they have like a little travel suitcase that they're bringing, that's perfect, great. But for their pillow, their sleeping bag, put it all in a big bag, please. All right, if you want to send an extra blanket, do that. Just put it on one big bag and label it. There weren't many children that had their luggage in the same car as that. So when we arrived at camp, it was kind of it was a garage sale situation where we were just throwing stuff and they were grabbing our stuff. Now, to go ahead and build upon that, and it'll say it on the next slide, you need to send extra bags too, because that first bag where everything came in, they're gonna tear open because they'll forget how to untie a knot. So that bag is gone. So to bring everything back, we need extra bags as well. Also, the dirty clothes bags. That freaks me out. Because some of their clothes are gonna be wet and they're gonna be there and mildewy for a couple of days. You're not gonna want that back and carry on with other stuff. It's gross. Kids are gross. Girls, boys, doesn't matter. All right, in the car, they each need a backpack that's gonna stay on their body for the journey, all right? And in that backpack, we don't have a problem with them having a cell phone. Okay, we're not here to say they don't have cell phones, because if I, as a parent, if my child was with people I didn't know in a car, I need to know where they are. That's imperative to me. So encourage them, if they have a device, they need to keep their location on. They're more than welcome to communicate the whole time with you. In fact, for the drivers, it's really helpful for us. Hey, send mom and dad a message that we're doing great or whatever, so the driver can focus on driving. The bag lunch we already touched upon, the reusable water bottle, and then again, some of those games, that'll all be nice for the car ride. Next one, please. There's a packing list, which is on a blue sheet of paper at the very, very back of your packet for the kids. The Peak, they've been doing this for years, so their packing list is really good. It's pretty comprehensive. But having done the trip last year, a couple things that we learned, little addendums. Have your child practice rolling up their sleeping bag. Sounds lame, but it's true. I'm not gonna help 10 kids roll up their sleeping bag. This isn't gonna happen. It's not gonna work out. So please have them practice a little bit. Do it as a family, make it a thing. I would recommend 2 pillowcases. One for it to come in, and then maybe once while they're there, because they'll drop on the floor, it's gonna be dirty. Slip-on shoes for bathroom at night. There's nothing worse than like people waking up, take the kid to the bathroom and tie their shoelaces. Get your shoes on the floor. So those kind of shoes are really nice to have. And then there's the reference to the bags that I already made. And then flashlights, handheld, not headlamp. It's not fun to get the light in your face. Nobody likes that. Nobody likes that. We're not minors. Handheld flashlight. And then that battery operated night light that I mentioned before. Next one. Okay, so transportation, I touched on it quite a bit, but let's just go ahead and go over it. The transportation permission form, I'm actually going to ask you to open that for me, Mr. Wood. So this is a pretty big deal. For those of you in your children's section of the packet, I think it's like the second form in. This form's a big deal. If you want your child to go in a vehicle with certain kids, you need to say it on this form. Especially you 7th graders, I don't know your friend dynamics. It helped us so much for you to put options for us when we make carpool groups. Then beyond that, we consult with Ms. Berry, because she has her in-class experience and she knows a little bit more about the social structure within the classes. But for the most part, we were able to figure out pretty solid carpool groups last time. So when it says, so student name, date, the trip is the 7th and 8th grade science camp. And then down here, it has a couple options. One is, my daughter ride only with the following persons. If there's only certain people that they have to be with, then put them. My son or daughter may ride with anyone. Thank you, that's great, that's really, really easy peasy. If there's anybody you don't want them in a car with, say that too. Okay, have a man lady, go loud, don't even give her, that's fine. I did sing myself, drive by myself. That form, so please make sure that you fill that out completely, so that your child can feel comfortable, because that's going back and forth to camp as well as on some of the excursions. Now, if we as chaperones notice that we have children that maybe aren't working out too hot, then it's our discretion to perhaps switch those up a little bit, and with by consulting with Sato as well. Okay, thank you. You're doing a great job.
It's my one skill.
I love it, I love it. All right, so we talked about meeting at 6:45 on Monday the 2nd in the PCOE lot, which is across the street. Big, nice, wide, open area. Chaperones, prior to that date or even that morning, I'm gonna provide you with signs for your vehicle. And it'll say pod 1, pod 2, pod 3. And you're going to have a list of the children that are in your vehicle, as well as their parents' contact numbers, and the contact numbers for all the other drivers on the trip. When the parents arrive, they will go, we'll tell them, okay, yeah, you're in pod 3, and we'll announce their names so the kids can go over to those vehicles. If the vehicle can accommodate their belongings, Mrs. Otto, for instance, she's driving, so we might put a lot of luggage in her car, we'll distribute it out at that point. We do not tell people the carpool groups before that. Upon the advice of Barry, she did this last year. I just can't, after the hours and hours we've done organizing this, I need to ride with so-and-so. 6:45 in the morning, I don't care. I'm so sorry. We're gonna live through this, it's gonna be okay. You're gonna get in the car, it's gonna be great. You're gonna love it. Parents, however, you will get to meet the driver, you will get to shake their hand and say, you know, my child's life, take care of it. Okay, you do it. And then you give them, they already have your number, but you give their number. And then as we stop along the route, we'll send a little update text. Please don't expect texts all the time because we're driving a car. But when we stop, we're gonna communicate, we're gonna say, hey, we're doing great, we're doing great. We peed 7 times, we're great. We're running on time, it's fantastic. The pods for chaperones, it worked out pretty good last year. So we had probably about 3 or 4 vehicles per pod. And so we don't have an expectation to all go in a single file line like we're going to a fire strike team or something. You know, you figure out who your pods are, and I give you your license plate numbers for that, and you get on the freeway. And you know, some cars, they want to go past the first stop. That's fine, go past the first stop. Some cars, we gotta stop at the first stop, right? And so we will put the pods together, and in that way, goodness forbid you have a vehicle issue, you're not driving alone. You have 3 other people that are gonna pull off the road with you to make sure everything's okay. We talked about the students bringing their technology during the ride, and that of course will be on the way back. So ideally, if they shut their tech off when we arrive, they should have the power to return. But I would still send them with a charger, obviously, for the length of ride that it is. In between the outlets in the vehicle, we can get some devices charged up and make sure that they're able to communicate with you on the way home as well. And then on that Thursday, you saw we did have an activity in the morning, but we're supposed to leave around 10:30 or so, get on the road, stop for a brief lunch. Ideally arriving back around 5 p.m. But as we get to certain cities, I think like last time, I feel like when we were near like Fairfield or something like that, we said, hey, you know, we should be home in a little bit. So you can plan to pick up. The pickup went pretty well. I don't think we have any families that were really just sitting around waiting for us for very long. Okay. I've touched on this. So again, the chaperones, you will have your folks with you. For us to communicate as adults, because we are going on these different excursions and hikes, to take pictures of the activities. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to create a Google group photo album prior to our departure. We're going to send the link to all the families involved, and then as chaperones, our responsibility each night is to upload images from throughout the day. So the parents who are at home can look at those and say, hey, this is what they did today. It was really cool last time. We'll also try to do like a nightly journal or diary entry or something like that, and we'll post that also on the album so that we can put, you know, in the words what we did that day with the children. So chaperones, there is electrical in the dining hall. So my husband said last time when they all just kind of took turns, they left some charging cords in there and they went in and put their device on for a few hours and they came back and somebody else traded out. Some of your vehicles might charge your phones. I know when I turn mine off, mine doesn't charge. But some vehicles do. So if the vehicle can charge it, then you're set. Again, the list of numbers I referenced earlier, all chaperones, by the time we leave, will have every single chaperone's number, email, and vehicle description, type of car, license plate, and all that. So I will give you all a sheet of paper, you'll have right there, and when we're on our journey, so that you can always get hold of chaperones. In case there's an emergency, you're at home, and a parent needs to get a hold of their child, they can contact myself, Carla, or Jen, they can contact the school, and then they can also try to call direct. Now, I mean, it is an answering service, so if they're out with us doing excursions, they may be on the line. So I'm gonna tell parents to try to get a hold of the organizers first before they call Peak Direct. Okay, forms, I referenced a few of them, but bear with me for a few moments. Let's go ahead and look first at the, those of you that just have your children attending, the set of student forms. So the first form for the kids, and it has their name in blue at the top, and those of you on Zoom, you're not getting your paperwork tonight, so we're going to give the paperwork to Mrs. Berry. And Mrs. Berry will give paperwork to all students tomorrow in class that weren't here tonight. So expect the paperwork to be coming home with students tomorrow. If you lose it, if they lose it, then every single document in this PowerPoint presentation has a link and you can print it yourself. Okay, so the first one is the, it's a PCOE form for the field trip approval. And you're gonna put your student's name in there, and then they want you to talk about, what you wanna do for medical stuff. So you gotta fill that out. It's only a one-sided form. The next one is that transportation permission form that we've already addressed. Put in who you want your child to carpool with, please. Unfortunately, those are the only required forms from PCOE. The other form from PCOE that, if it's applicable, you're going to submit is the physician's form. You guys see that one? Got it? Okay. Now, that particular I think it's 3 total pages, that form. So the nursing staff of PCOE is phenomenal, and they made this up for you. If your child takes medication right now during the day at iLearn school, and in order to do so, has paperwork in the office on file, you do not need to fill out this form if they only take medication during the day. If they take medication at night, however, even if it's the same stuff they take during the day, they just take it at night too, you have to fill out this paperwork, and you have to have a physician sign it for anything that is prescribed, that comes from a pharmacy. If your child has allergies and takes over-the-counter Claritin at night, you don't need the doctor to sign that, because that's not prescribed, but you do need to put it on the form. Mrs. Otto will be the keeper of all medical information. Parent organizers do not have that information. We don't want that information. She will be the one who will communicate with the students when it's time to take their medication, and she will do so discreetly. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I didn't even know what she was doing last time. Yeah, she was very, very sick. So once again, if you take medication at school already, have paperwork on file, don't fill out the form. Anything extra at night, please fill out the form. You have to have the doctor sign it. I cannot stress this enough. Because, Mr. Wood.
The deadline has to be it's black and white for that to be filled out and turned in. We made some exceptions last year, and it just it was too much to try to organize last minute as a result. And so just to be safe, we want to make sure that everyone understands what those deadlines are and they get the paperwork in no later than the deadline. And if it is, unless there's like an accident or something, we're not cave people, but we want to make sure that the document deadline is set at that point so that our nurses can go through the process of clarifying and making sure that those are clear and all that stuff. So just as a heads up, and then we'll tell everybody on Zoom and then everyone else as well. So just a heads up about that.
And we're asking that all the paperwork be due 9/11 because that's on Monday. And that gives us the opportunity to go through and make sure everybody's filled it out right, that everybody's turned it in, and follow up with everybody that week. Because we have to give our head counts to the camp the next week because of the food piece. The medical stuff, because you have to get into a doctor to have them sign something for you, or maybe you can fax or email, I don't know. You have until the 15th, but that is the drop dead date. So if I were you, mentally, get it on the 11th. But if something comes up with your physician's office, you have until that Friday. Because Mr. Wood just said it's a drop dead date. Don't get it in, you can't go. Okay? And I don't want that to happen, because that almost happened last time, and it was arduous. It's the nicest thing I could say.
I'll work out that.
So that's the physician. Does anyone have a question regarding that? That's really important. Go ahead.
I have a question regarding this one.
Okay, that's the first sheet, right?
So it says if private vehicles are to be used, you're supposed to put the name of the driver before you sign it. Will we know that the morning of?
So that is, it's interesting that that's on there because, and I know you don't have one of these ones, but like, here's a chaperone. That was highlighted everywhere. They didn't do that on that. I don't think you have to put it in.
Oh, I think what they ended up doing is putting any driver if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
Or if you have specific, they go back and.
Yeah, and then based on those other forms, I think that we fill that in.
On that
Yes.
form, maybe a typo that says Alliance Red Websites.
Oh, it does. You know, Kimberly Berryman is one of the most organized humans on the planet, but we're all human. Thank you for catching that. Would Carla, will you add a note for that, and then we'll send, I'll ask that everyone just cross over that. Because the dates are correct, the grades are correct, it's just location. Thank you, Alex, for catching that. Now it should be peak, P-E-E-C. Perfect, okay. Okay, the next set of forms are the ones from Peak themselves. Now, the health form is a bit of a repeat of the PCOE form, but the piece on this that we really need is that number one, does the participant have any severe medical problem, allergy to foods, dietary restrictions? That's what I was referencing with respect to noting that here, going on to the back if necessary, so that we can review that and make the appropriate accommodations. And then waiver of liability. So for student one, because sometimes I think this gets a little confusing. You're gonna put your student's name, you can have them sign, and then you're the parent, right, signs. Chaperones, you have one that says chaperone at the top, you're filling that out for you. So you're gonna put your name, not your child's name, and then continue on. And then the behavior contract, we mentioned earlier, and then finally the photo release. So the photo release in here is for Pete. You don't want your child to have photos that could potentially be posted like on their website, then don't fill out this form. No, we won't let them take pictures. However, unless there is something on file with the school that says that your kids can't be in pictures here at school, same policy, the parent chaperones will be taking pictures because we're not publishing them to anything. We're going to be keeping it, that Google photo album that I referenced earlier is invite only album. I will tell you, when we got back, some of the parents shared it with the kids, and then the kids started viewing it, which I don't hate. Because some of them, they post stuff, and I like that personally. But that's parents, I can't stop them all. And then the packing list we referenced earlier as well. Okay, so that should be for the forms for the students. Briefly, for the chaperones, you also have that field trip form that I mentioned that has the yellow highlighting on it, very similar to the kids. You have to turn it over though, because it does want emergency contacts for you as an adult person. And then your automobile information. This part's pretty important. We need to make sure that you have the correct amount of insurance coverage required by PCOE, and then your policy and all that information. I did write on those ones on the bottom, my really nice pink gel pen. If you could tell us the vehicle make and model, because that helps us determine how many vehicles can take, as well as the luggage capacity. So when we're figuring out the car list. Okay, next one. So once you turn in all of your forms by the 11th, then we ask that all payments be due, because we have to, as I said before, notify the camp of who's attending, and then whoever we tell them, we gotta pay for, we're committed at that point. To date, all of you have paid $75, which is the deposit that you provided before the end of last school year, so we could book the dates with the camp. If you want to do an installment plan, because we were trying to give you about a month apart since we started school so quickly, the first installment due date is actually tomorrow. Now, if you have a student just going $97.50, because you already paid the $75, and your grand total for the entire trip will be $195 per, or $270 per student, but the amount you're paying now. So you can pay the installments, or you can pay by the 20th, or you can pay it all right now. I don't care. If you're a chaperone, it's $125 total for you to go. You haven't paid anything yet. So you can add to what's remaining for the students, which would be installments of $160, or your total for yourself and your child $320. For those of you that have twins or children in both grade levels, the math gets a little extra. Email me if you need help figuring that out. Happy to help. If anyone needs financial assistance, then let us parent organizers know, and we're happy to confer with PTO. Carl is actually a board member. If you're not comfortable with us knowing that information, no hard feelings, please email Kimberly Berryman, and she will discreetly say, someone needs financial assistance. We don't need to know who it is. And then we'll go to PTO and say, what can we afford? I'm not saying we can do it for free, but we'll do the best we can based on the other fundraising and donations. Along that same vein, I know that one of my chaperones, when we had a Zoom meeting, said, hey, we're happy to sponsor a kid. If you want to sponsor a student, please email myself, Carl, or Jen. Let us know the amount, and we would love to give somebody an opportunity, maybe that they can't afford to go. Parent organizers aren't touching money. That's a PTO deal. So we're asking that all payments be dropped off in the office. Kimberly Berryman, Jessica Reynolds, they're in there every day, all day. They'll take those payments. They have an envelope. They'll put it in. They'll put the date, your check number, or cash, whatever you paid, and mark that down. And then periodically, Stacy and Boone will come in and take those payments. We highly suggest do not send them with students. We had a couple students actually lose their parents' deposit last spring. They were older students, and it happened. So just please make an effort just to walk in the office and drop it off yourself. PTO does not have Venmo, does not have PayPal, so cash or check is all they're going to accept, please. Okay, so I tried to be as quick as I could. Ooh, under an hour. I'm impressed. Does anyone in this room have questions? Yes.
How can we help pay for gas for the chaperones?
I love that. I love that. So in the actual registration fees for peak, we built in a little bit, just a little bit for that. But if you would like to contribute in any way to offset the cost of the chaperones, then email us, let us know that amount, please. And then we'll arrange the payment to PTO. And then what we'll do is, depending on the donations that we receive upon our return, we'll split that equally with all the drivers. I mean, it would kind of.
Maybe we could put it on the sign up for the food donations.
Well, that's viewed by the public, so I don't know if everybody's comfortable with that. So personally, I would be more comfortable if people just want to email us directly, and that way we can keep track of it and make those
And
arrangements.
we could put a note on the bottom of
Yeah,
that, say
absolutely.
if it's not a snack,
No, that's a very kind offer, because it's a lot.
it's
For
a
sure.
4.5 hour
It is.
drive, yeah.
It's a lot. Any other questions in here? Yes.
Which route you're taking to get to program?
So I've been looking at that, and I do want to confer with my partners. We haven't had a lot of time since school started, but the way that my family's typically gone is we go up and we go across on Highway 20, and then come up in Support Bragg that way. So that takes us, I think, by Campfire West, if I recall that area. Clear Lake. Thank you. John's always driving. I don't know what I should. So we go up there, and then it gets quite windy though as we head towards the house. But I didn't want to like drive over through, because last year we went on to Lions Fair Woods, we went like through Napa, Sonoma, and that way, and then you could go up the coast. I think it's too much. So I will actually, prior to our departure, with a couple other things we'll be putting out, I'll show you guys the route that we'll be on, and I'll let you know. Like for example, last time the time of day that we left, we needed to use restrooms. There's not a lot of rest stops between here and basically Vallejo, okay? So we thought, okay, where can we go? We didn't wanna go into like Targets or something, because we're gonna lose the kids. In and outs would have been nice, because those are usually pretty clean, but they're not open at 9 AM. So we did end up going to some McDonald's that, were in pretty nice places. And that's where we ended up going. And so I think, we need to route that out, but that's essentially, I'll give you guys kind of the directions we're going and then where we intend to stop. Because we have to kind of
McDonald's was kind of fun because they got a drink or,
Yeah.
it's.
Some of them, they had good chaperones, got treats.
Yes. Yes, what about?
Depending on how good they were.
You may wanna look at your driving where the cell phone drops out, because we do lose cell.
Yes, it will. And that absolutely happened to us last time. It was Petaluma. The last time we could communicate as chaperones was Petaluma, and we all said, till we get to camp, everybody stay together. Like it was for real. So that's something as the pods that we'll just have to be cognizant of as we're driving and keep it in eyesight of one another. And then now the kids they're gonna get upset, but it'll happen. I've been told though by our naturalists and the people at Peak that they do have cell service there. It's not great, but it's there, it's available. And there will be those times when we are going to Fort Bragg, which I would suggest the chaperones utilize to upload pictures and things like that. Maybe while the kids are swimming in the pool, because I think they have lifeguards there, so we don't have to be on duty the whole time. All right, questions in here, Mr. Wood?
Yeah, I had one, probably for me. Will the
Oh,
students,
yes.
will the students be expected to complete a full workload from the regular classes in addition to the field trip work? Yeah, we're gonna double it. Cause they get to go to Fort Bragg and I'll be here. No, last year, I think what they do is they did like a modified amount of work that's totally doable. So, no, that won't be the full, I don't know if that's Tara or if that's Mike, but I'll put that in there.
So
They'll do like a modified.
yeah, what they did last year was, I think when they returned, Mrs. Tanaka had them write like a paragraph about how it went, and that was her language arts, And then I think Mrs. Berry had them like answer some science questions. And when we were actually at Alliance Redwood, they provided a booklet. There was a time frame during each day. The kids actually had to do a little bit of schoolwork, like science type related stuff to the activities that we had done, like the other herpetology. It's fascinating. So the kids did some, so they did some stuff like that too. I don't think Mr. was thinking there's too many about knots.
And usually it is pretty mean.
He is.
But we do have a new
We
teacher,
could have
so.
them do
I love
like a mile per gallon, some kind of geography.
How did this stop your family?
Yeah, that's what we.
Okay. Any other questions from the chat?
No, there was one other comment earlier from, Leo, yeah, I went with.
Leo Brent,
John
yes.
Rogers on that trip, was freezing cold, I slept with hand warmers on, I goes, thanks for freaking us out there, Leo.
No. So Leo, I'm gonna say this because Leo, my husband got a tick on the walk, staircase walk. Unfortunately, Leo is medically trained and they're decent friends because I believe it was on his backside perhaps area, and Leo safely removed it.
Ugh,
So thank
I
you,
mean,
Leo.
Thank you,
One of
Leo.
my favorites. But that will be something that we'll mention. Now, they did go in March, however, so I'm not really sure about the tick season,
I
but
don't think-
we'll
yeah.
remind the children about that as well. Just kind of, check yourself and we'll help as well as we can.
Pete has staff there.
Yes.
They're available and
Yeah.
trained and know what's happening and.
And we
They'll
go.
save the tick.
They'll save the tip.
They'll save the tick, yeah.
We can dissect it.
If you can be
We'll
saved.
put it under a microscope after.
Yeah, and I've been going out to this place in Mendocino, Fort Bragg for years and years and years, and way up the coast, and it's always nicer in September, October,
Mhm.
weather-wise, than it is here. So we don't usually have a ton of rain, it'll be nice and sunny typically, and I don't think there's a lot of ticks this time of year, so it's the perfect time to go, so it'll be nice and cool and beautiful.
Everybody we've talked to said we've got the best time, and we were feeling a little anxious because it's so quick within the school year. However, I think it's gonna be ideal. Last year when we went in March to Alliance Woods, it rained, it was forecasted every single day. And I think on our second day, it did rain pretty good. And we all wore our raincoats and we were outside and we dealt with it, but it's kind of that coastal drizzle, so it wasn't awful. And with that, I would just, as the day approaches, we'll just keep an eye on the weather. And if you think that, you need to pack maybe more cold stuff perhaps, or more rain gear, then that's your prerogative to do so. Just kind of, if your family was going, what would you take that kind of?
And it's a
idea?
science camp, weather is science.
It is.
It was really
Science.
kind of cool being out in the rain from what our kids will usually experience here.
Yeah, and because of the wet factor, not just because of the rain, because of the tide pools, I know that it has on the forum, they said rubber boots if you want, but I think our naturalist said a lot of the kids slip in rubber boots because they're not as used to wearing those. No brand new shoes, they said, because either they're gonna get ruined or if they're not used to them, not to wear them. So when it says like sneakers, send them with the old sneakers that if they don't put it back, it's not great at all. The only other thing that I was gonna let you know about, and this is option, the camp last year actually had a store and the kids could go in and buy stuff. This doesn't have that, but they do have t-shirts that they sell for $15. And so when we do the maybe the signups or something like that, if you guys want to buy a shirt for your child to commemorate this experience, we'll provide you with that option and that information. No obligation to do so. But they did give that as an option to us. Okay,
That's all I got for you.
anything else? Okay, well, good. We tried to be thorough, so I hope that all of your questions have been answered. And
Or if you have ones that come up,
yes, then email us. Like I said, we're
we'll
going
send a
to,
copy of this.
based on what we talked about tonight, we will update the PowerPoint. Link will be sent actually by Kimberly Berryman, and that way you can read this information, access any additional forms you need, have our contact right there at your fingertips. The only other thing I wanted to say is if after tonight, you decided, it's not doing this, we're not doing it, we're not going, it's too much. PTO has been kind enough to say they will provide that deposit refund back for $75. Last year, they did not do that, So you have until tomorrow. If you're not gonna go, then you need to let me know, let Carla know, you gotta tell us. Because Stacy Newton Boom is ready, if she needs to write a refund. We have had 2 people already drop out, one went to school, one decided, not ready. And that's okay, totally fine. But please let us know so you get your money back, because after this, and once we start getting these other payments, we can't do that. Because then we're committing to all those things I've already referenced tonight.